as we get ready for that fateful Monday morning. But until then, y'all continue to enjoy what's left of y'all's weekend. We'll get you ready for the work week ahead. And thank you so much for supporting us here at Mississippi Live. All right, I think we got everything back and booted up. Thank you guys for tuning in. We do have another severe thunderstorm warning issued now, not technically within our coverage area here at Mississippi Live, but wanted to hop on and cover it because I know people were asking earlier in the comments while me and Matt were on about Pickwick Lake and out on the boat. So we are dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning right now, and I will note first and foremost, lightning strikes are at 2,096. You can see there on the top left of your screen, and earlier when we were live,
and live
they were up to 2,100, 200. So the ads are acting up. Let me see if I can fix that. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna need y'all in the comments to let me know if this is working. Okay, I think y'all can hear me now. Sometimes we have issues. I think Matt might be behind the scenes trying to fix that for me. I've already had people text me letting me know that the ad's playing, but I think it's coming back on. And I have it pulled up as well, so I'll make sure that this music can get off. I could still hear the music. Matt, are you working on this behind the scenes? Do you want me to start muting? Hello? It's fixed. It's fixed? Okay, so I'm good to go? I can kind of hear it in the studio, though. I can... Okay, I'll just keep going. I'll just listen to it while I broadcast. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll keep the chat pulled up so I can make sure that you guys can see that. Let me switch this back over. I guess minimize this because I think that was, yeah, there we go. Okay, everybody in the comments saying it's fixed now. So I'll keep that pulled up just in case something starts to act on up. But I'll restart since we didn't make it too far in. I wanted to hop on live because there is a severe thunderstorm warning ongoing, not really within our coverage area, but still close enough. And we had people commenting earlier on up in the Pickwick Lake area, kind of what the forecast is. Are they good to go out, continue boating? We're dealing with some of these storms. Now, the peak overall coverage with that severe weather intensity, I still believe that was earlier on today. We could still have these rogue showers and storms, just try to give a last oomph with their energy. And so I just wanted to hop on, kind of talk about that storm that's ongoing right now. So I'm going to keep my phone on so you guys can keep sending me texts in case that is not working anymore. But we should be good to go. I'll even... Perfect. Okay, so I'm not hearing any music. Okay, so let's take a look. We'll zoom in here on that severe thunderstorm warning, kind of getting closer towards you guys out there in Florence, Alabama, over you guys in Cherokee, Muscle Shoals, Valley Grove, Bear Creek. So we're dealing with a lot of lightning, 600 strikes within this kind of frame that you can see here, and pretty much all are within that warning. We still have a few out here towards southern portions of Tishomingo County, getting closer towards Bloody Springs, but we're seeing a lot of that energy here with that warning as we're just dealing with energetic storms all across North Mississippi. So we'll take a look, kind of all of our threats here. Again, we're going to deal with a lot of just heavy rain and the possibility of some hail. And when we're talking about this, and I like the way Matt phrased it earlier, this is peak impact. So kind of a worst case scenario, but it's more programmed for kind of those severe weather days during the fall, the spring season, where we have these high-end impacts that kind of can make their way through North Mississippi. It is a hot summer day. We're not going to see much or many hailstones make it to the surface. In fact, we haven't seen many so far through North Mississippi. So we're still talking about some of those lighter pink shades here, indicating that hail is possible, a little bit darker, closer towards Bear Creek. But as far as meeting 1 inch in diameter of criteria, I'd be very shocked if that's making it all the way down towards the surface if we're getting any. So we'll take a look at that warning that got issued, and it was dealing with the potential for some 1-inch hail and winds going up to 60 miles per hour. So definitely going to deal with that. We can take a look at our hail threat sponsored by True Shield Roofing, kind of seeing the path, and that's already a great sign. We're not really seeing much of that within this warning. In fact, we'd have to go elsewhere to find it, or lack thereof, and that's kind of more within Monroe, getting closer towards Lowndes and to Lamar. We're not seeing a whole lot of that with this warning that's ongoing out there in the most northwestern portion of Alabama. So that continues to be a good thing. We're going to be dealing with a lot of rainfall, which we can take a look at kind of the rain rate right now. We can kind of put some products on that. So this is right now, I mean, very, very heavy. If it were to sit on top of you guys for like an hour, we're dealing with almost 6.5 inches. Now, granted, I mean, these storms are moving very slow, but they're moving, so that continues to be a good thing. But with them moving around 5 to 10 miles per hour, you're getting a lot of rainfall and not a lot of time. So that can kind of start building up very quickly. It causes some flooding concerns. We saw some of that in Ackerman with some of the comments coming on in. So we're dealing with just very, very heavy rainfall, quite a few rumbles of thunder, a lot of flashes of lightning. It's a very energetic storm, but as far as I know, you guys were curious about tornadoes or anything significant, impactful like that. That is not what we're forecasting or dealing with today or right now. It's just the threat for heavy rainfall, then the potential for some hail. In fact, I can even go back towards our threats if we were talking about the potential for some shear to occur or that rotation. It's just kind of, it would come up in red. So we're dealing with that green, that purple, but nowhere here can you see any of that red pop up, not even on like the thinnest layer of showing that little confidence. So that continues to be a positive, definitely a good thing to see here. So let me see if I can pop this up through here, because I'll keep that screen pulled up just in case he was still working on that. Chroma, we'll pull up the chat in case you guys are still asking questions and kind of tuning on in right now at 4:07 p.m., which I need to make sure I'm not looking at past comments. Okay, so that was earlier on. Mississippi has major lightning and thunder. Lightning is something fierce. They've been very, very energetic lately. Let alone those storms that we were dealing with yesterday and even today. Kim Williams asking, is Prentiss County good for the rest of our Sunday? We can zoom back out here and kind of show you what we're dealing with now in the grand scheme of things, and of course where we were at earlier. I'm envisioning if we do see some of these severe thunderstorm warnings to continue to pop on up, it's for the most eastern portion of our viewing area and pretty much for you guys further out across the state line into Alabama. We're just dealing with some residual kind of lingering moisture, some sprinkles, some showers, but not quite that heavy, that intense kind of storm coverage we were seeing earlier, especially for you guys in Prentiss County. I know you guys got some of that earlier on today. I think this is only for the past hour. We'll go past 4. And you can see all those warnings and storms that kind of moved on earlier this afternoon. So I'm not envisioning that to continue. You could see those storms pass through Prentiss County earlier on around the 4 o'clock hour, and now you guys are just dealing with some of that lingering moisture. So I would say the overall intensity, threat, y'all are good to go for the rest of y'all's evening. You'll have to keep that umbrella handy, especially if any of more of these try to pop on up, like you can kind of see behind me here. Let me move that over out here towards New Albany. I mean, not dealing with anything severe, but still dealing with some heavier downpours, energetic as well, which I'll even look behind the screen scenes and make sure no special weather statements are issued. And actually, there's not any in North Mississippi. So that continues to be a good thing. I think we're seeing a flash flood warning actually just got issued for you guys out there in Colbert, Alabama. I think it's, yeah, just Colbert. Everything's kind of mixing up, and Lauderdale. So those are the 2 counties where that warning got issued. And that's what we were just hitting with that rainfall rate and just how fast it is producing. It can cause some flash flooding concerns within that severe thunderstorm warning. So we're not dealing with anything tornadic. And honestly, hail, I think, continues to struggle a lot today with, one, not only how hot we are, but when there's a lot of rainfall, it kind of just melts within the rain. The rain kind of helps the hail not make it to the surface. We're talking about high precip storms out there. So hail will continue to struggle. It's not out of the picture completely, but I'm not expecting anything major. And thankfully, we have not seen many reports get issued. So we're talking about heavy, heavy rainfall out there. We'll highlight a few more of these kind of areas. 7.5 inches per hour if it were just to sit on top of you guys. Let's get closer to Cherokee. That's around 2 inches. Out here just northeast of Malone, over 7 inches. Between Hawk Pride and Bellevue Heights, 7.5. I mean, we are talking about heavy, blinding rainfall. So that is going to be our biggest concern. I want to continue to answer your guys' questions. What about Tupelo? I can zoom back out again, kind of cover what's ongoing here, and we'll continue to kind of see these storms. And I'm going to see, okay, yeah, that one in New Albany's dying off. Yeah, here in Tupelo and Lee County, we're doing pretty good, dealing with some sprinkles. Honestly, I don't even think we're dealing with many rumbles of thunder or anything energetic within our region. So we're definitely not hearing any loud booms out there in the sky quite as frequently as what we were earlier. Those continue to shift further and further east, and kind of exiting Lamar County in our region, getting closer towards Fayette and Gwinn, and passing by Hamilton. But not really dealing with anything severe in our region anymore. And I'll pop this back up full screen. That way you guys can see everything I'm talking about here. So North Mississippi continues to look very well for the rest of our evening. So any last minute weekend plans you have going on tonight, feel free to go out and do them. Bring an umbrella with you, even make the kids wear their rain boots. It's going to be a little bit soggy outside, especially if you were one of those communities that got some of these heavier downpours. But as far as expecting more storms to continue or anything intense or strong, that's not really in the forecast throughout the rest of our evening. In fact, we'll be live coming up here in the next hour and a half at 6 to give you guys what's the latest for your Sunday evening and heading into your Monday morning, because that work week, it is right around the corner and we got to get ready for that. But as far as severe here in North Mississippi, we are not dealing with that. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning out there in Alabama, which I will pull up the camera in Iuka. I don't think I can, oh, actually I can. Let me see if we can change the direction on that and see which way it's looking. So we're looking out here with our Iuka camera, and right now we're looking west. So we want to go look east, and we might have to look through a tower because I know most of these are programmed to see those storms occurring out there. Coming from the west, as that's typically where we see severe weather come from. Oh, well, there's a strike right there. So we're dealing with some of those kind of energetic storms out there in the east across the state line, affecting you guys out there in Alabama. But as far as North Mississippi, that continues not being a concern. And it was a kind of fast flip. I pressed the preset. But we're talking about heavy, heavy rainfall pretty much everywhere. You can kind of almost see there's another flash of lightning. Looks like the clouds are making all the way down towards the surface. Can't distinguish that between the rain. But further out west, and this is a great shot here, you can kind of tell where there are drier conditions and where's that heavier rainfall. I mean, take a look at these bands of rain continuing to make its way down out here just west of the camera. And we can still talk about some drier spots starting to shine on through, but allowing us to feel pretty good. 73 degrees feels like 70. So yes, any outdoor plans you have for the rest of your evening, get outside, enjoy them. Keep the umbrella handy because, I mean, we're still dealing with some sprinkles. You can see right behind me here, some of that lingering moisture, but not quite as energetic or as intense as it was earlier. So that continues to be a good thing. And we can take another shot out here in Corinth in Alcorn County. And let's see if, I don't think I can change this one, but we're talking about some of that heavier rainfall out there. 73 degrees again, feels like 70. And now we're still talking about that southerly wind around 11 miles per hour. That's going to be a big focus point of the forecast heading into the next few days, which is exactly why you need to get outside, enjoy the conditions right now, because we are going to be talking about muggy and sticky conditions heading into the work week ahead. It is going to be brutal with that Mississippi mugginess making its return. Let's go out here towards Boonville, and we can start spinning this one around to get some good shots out there. So this is currently facing northwest. Let's go a little bit further east, see if we can get some of those darker clouds and just heavy rainfall occurring out there. So we're talking about just still some heavy rain pretty much as far as the eyes can see out there towards Alabama, facing the northeast direction, crossing the state line. So still dealing with some rain. Not quite seeing too much lightning right now. At least it might be a little bit further away or not quite as consistent. That continues to be a positive thing. And I'm gonna minimize this just so I can see this in the background. Somebody else asking about Sturgis. Well, I can double check that for you guys, and then we'll go back towards that warning before wrapping it up, but I just wanted to kind of hop on, discuss that warning that was ongoing. Still not within our region, but something I wanted to cover for you guys. We'll zoom in kind of down here outside the Golden Triangle region, getting closer towards you guys in Sturgis and Oktibbeha County. You guys are staying dry. There was actually a flooding report submitted out there in Ackerman for one of the flood-prone streets out there. I think it's Gunstown Street. I can't remember which one it was. The font might be a little bit too tiny to read. If it says it, it just says downtown Ackerman. Due to a thunderstorm that dropped between 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in about an hour. So that is the big focus point of these storms that move on through. In fact, the biggest threat with these storms is the potential for some flash flooding along with that wind. We're really not talking about severe weather in the state of tornadoes or even hail being a big concern. It's just that heavy amount of rain, blinding rainfall, kind of the bigger, fatter raindrops during this time of year. And with these storms moving so slow, I mean, 5, 10, maybe pushing 15 miles per hour, they can dump a lot of rainfall in a quick amount of time. So you guys out there in Sturgis, not dealing with that as of now. Y'all are kind of staying dry. You get some showers a little bit further east in the Golden Triangle region, showers further out west, affecting Choctaw County, getting closer towards Winston and Tala. You guys were dealing with some heavy rainfall and quite a few outages earlier, but hopefully we're going to continue to see those come back online, which we can take a look at that here with our power outage map and see. Yeah, so 400 are still reported within Tala County. I'll move that out of the way for you guys. Oops, I still have my Doppler tool on. So 400 out there in Atala. It looks like Monroe County, that has gone down significantly. That continues to impress. We can see more out here towards Alcorn County, around 100. And then the severe thunderstorm warning already causing about 400 outages as well. So outages, that's going to be a concern as well, which is kind of these gusty winds trying to kind of knock out some of those dead trees or limbs, especially from the ice storm. We were talking about that earlier today with a photo that was sent in to us highlighting that. So still dealing with that here in North Mississippi and kind of the effects of it. Let me switch. Honestly, we might be able to get a better view with our Memphis. Let's look at the difference. I like the Columbus one's a little bit better. So we can go through our winds again. We're not dealing with anything rotating or severe like that. In fact, you can kind of see those inbound winds and the outbound winds kind of talking about just gusty conditions. Those peak threats, let's see how that has changed within the past few minutes. If it's kind of starting to downtrend a little bit, kind of when that warning was issued, heavy rainfall, potential for some hail, especially next to Muscle Shoals. And then that kind of continues to be very prominent, not really slowing down. So could see a little bit of hail out there just south of Highway 72. I would say this is probably our most prominent area to see some of that here, just southwest of Muscle Shoals, getting closer and closer towards crossing Highway 72. But that flash flood warning has been issued, and that by around 7:30, just with how much rain is being dumped out there for you guys in Cherokee, Muscle Shoals, Florence. You guys are getting a lot of rain at this moment. So let's go back towards precip. We can see that again. Also, to put your minds at ease as far as shear or anything tornadic, that continues to not be a concern whatsoever. We are not dealing with that one bit. So just wanted to show that for you guys because I know that's a tool we like to use a lot during severe weather season and during severe weather events, at least kind of more widespread, impactful all across the region. Thankfully, that's not the story here with this warning ongoing. And will continue to be the story throughout the rest of the evening. Somebody else in the comments asking about Caledonia, Mississippi. I know that was a focus point of our broadcast earlier on tonight, or this afternoon. Actually, a report got issued as well. So this was around 3:45 per photos and description. A tree was blown down on Main Street. So you guys kind of dealt with some of that severe weather earlier on today. Now y'all are just kind of dealing with that lingering moisture up there in the Caledonia region. I think the last time we looked at the camera, it was that blinding rainfall. So let's go see the difference now, almost, I'd say, an hour after getting off, and kind of see the difference. So we can actually see with this camera now and see a lot further. So a reporting station, unfortunately, down, but I know you guys are going to feel pretty nice, probably closer to maybe low 70s. And the temperature still kind of within the low 70s as well. So still seeing some of that rain out there in the distance, some drops on the camera. but we're really not talking about that blinding rainfall or just any heavy precip that was ongoing earlier. So that continues to look good. All of North Mississippi, by the way, continues to look very well. I want to zoom that out. We can reset here again and before kind of wrapping this off, because I do need to get back to forecasting and getting ready for the 6 o'clock, but I kind of wanted to pop on to talk about that warning, even though it's not technically in our coverage area, but it's kind of sandwiched right between those two counties that we typically do cover. So I just wanted to hop on briefly and talk about that. But still, North Mississippi continues to look pretty good here on your Sunday evening. We're dealing with some of these pop-up showers, heavier downpours, but the overall severe weather or intensity, that continues to be in the rear view menu, or mirror, not the rear view menu. I think I'm starting to get hungry. It's getting closer to dinner time. But we're not dealing with anything quite as widespread as what we were dealing with earlier. Thankfully, it's not all of North Mississippi, but I mean, Highway 45, that was very prominent with those warnings earlier. I can even go back to kind of highlight that in case you guys are just now tuning in, want to know kind of what happened earlier. We were dealing with some gusty conditions with some of these severe thunderstorm warnings issued, but notice how we're seeing that initial warning box get issued and then nothing after that. So these aren't really long-lived sort of storms that just continue to produce something impactful or severe. They build on up, and once they kind of start to dissipate, they drop everything that they have stored up, and that's about it. So that continues to be a positive with these storms this evening, and I'm expecting that coverage and kind of activity to continue to decrease. So we're still dealing with that severe thunderstorm warning out here towards the northeast portion of our region, or at least our viewing area, just outside of it for Florence, Muscle Shoals, Killen, Cherokee. We're dealing with that flash flood warning as well. That's going to continue until 7:30. We're dealing with just heavy amounts of rainfall. Looks like we actually have another report that got issued. So this is around 4:30, several trees down in the 8,000 block of River Road. So for you guys just outside of Killen, Florence, Muscle Shoals, you guys kind of seeing some of those trees already get blown over with these gusty winds. And I'd be curious to see when, okay, so this warning will expire around 5 o'clock. So we'll just continue until this warning either gets extended if it continues kind of its strength, or until it expires. So we're still dealing with that warning out there. Let's see if we can get another visual. I think we've already done Iuka. I wonder, oh, well, this is our Itawamba Fulton one. Now this is our MDOT, so we won't be able to get a good shot of that. I think Iuka is still going to be our best bet. And we were getting some bolts on there earlier. So let me make sure this is still facing a good direction behind the screen. Wow, now feeling like the upper 60s. So you guys out there in Tishomingo County, if it's not still raining, which you can kind of see behind me, if you're in one of those dry spots, get outside, enjoy those temperatures and feels like values right now. It is, Iuka definitely seems to be the place to be as we're wrapping up the weekend, getting ready for the work week ahead. Of course, big thanks to FN Bank for sponsoring this camera, and for the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for providing it for us. Helps give us some eyes out there. So we're facing back west again. I'll rotate this kind of a little bit more slow so we can kind of see what kind of the landscape looks like around the horizon. Dealing with some of those clouds, some heavy rainfall, and as we continue to look more southeast and more east, we're going to have to look through the tower, but I think we can kind of get that out of the way. So we're dealing with some of those drier conditions. We can see that sun to shine a little bit more northeasterly, but I think our storms are a little bit further out east where we'd have to look through the tower. So a nice shot out there, not dealing with those gloomy skies completely. We're still going to have to deal with some residual moisture and showers here in our region, but definitely wanted to keep you guys updated, and we'll see how, yeah, we're just going to have to look through the tower to get a good visual on that further out east where those storms are occurring. But you can definitely tell some of those darker clouds out there, kind of a little bit right here. And I don't know if I just saw a flash of lightning a little bit behind me right there when I was moving between monitors. So a lot to look at here. So still dealing with some of those kind of gloomy skies out there in the distance, but not quite as blinding of a downpour as what we were dealing with earlier today, as North Mississippi continues to be in good shape. And it looks like that warning has already expired. So we didn't even make it to 5 o'clock, pretty much 14 minutes early. Not really seeing that same level of intensity that prompted that warning to be issued. And now we're just kind of dealing with that flash flood warning, and that's going to continue all the way until 7:30. So these showers, they're going to continue dumping heavy amounts of rainfall for you guys out there in Lauderdale, Colbert, and I think it's just Lauderdale and Colbert if I'm looking correctly. So yeah, Lauderdale and Colbert counties out there in Alabama, you guys dealing with a flash flood warning with some heavy amounts of rainfall, constant flashes of lightning. But on the bright side, once it kind of moves on through and then you're good to go throughout the rest of the evening, you're going to feel a lot better as well. So before we wrap this up, now that that warning is gone and it has expired or at least taken off, well, actually, I say that we have a severe thunderstorm warning just east of Hamilton. So kind of clipping our region. Again, we were talking about if we were to see any more activity, it's going to be the far eastern portion of our viewing area. And I actually just saw a lightning bolt on our Iuka camera behind the scenes. So Sunny Home, Rock City, you guys are dealing with this heavy downpour. And let me see how fast they have these storms moving, because I would not be surprised if they're still very, very slow. Okay, so moving northeast at 10 miles per hour. So before we put a track on that, because I think 10 is definitely enough that we can get a decent track on it, let's take a look at our accumulation, because, I mean, with how slow it's moving and how dark those reds are, it's definitely dumping a lot of rainfall. Let's tally those up. That's around almost 7 inches in an hour just north of Rock City, northeast of Brilliant out there in Alabama. So definitely dealing with some heavy rainfall. Still very energetic, and we don't really have any camera. Let's try, well, actually, no, let's do a storm track before I go look at a camera. That way we can give you guys the latest look at that. So let me switch back to our reflectivity, and we'll go around 10 miles per hour in that northeast direction. So kind of go along the green where you'll start to see some of that rainfall. And it might be pretty much, yeah, the rest of that warning box. So Glen Mary around 450, Del Mar 456. And if that kind of shows you how slow it's moving, I mean, 6 minutes between these two dots, kind of starting to see some of that heavier rainfall. German Crossing 524, Lynn around 530. So that's going to continue to inch further and further outside of our viewing area once it crosses that state line. But I want to continue covering this warning as it continues into the rest of our evening. And I think it has it expiring around 5:45 if we can even make it that far. So I'm not expecting it to continue for that long, but still dealing with some heavy precip out there. And we'll go take a look at our camera. Let's see. I think we can try our Amory one and look out east. Hopefully we're not looking through a tower with this one. Let's see. We'll move this one. Yeah, so this is our Smithville one. Let's see if I have access to move it. There we go. And then do we have a preset for farther east? No, we don't. So this is looking southwest. Let's start to shift this. Hopefully it doesn't go too fast. I know we're going to look through a tower. That's the unfortunate thing when we ever want to look at storms further out east. We just typically can't, because our cameras are set up for severe weather season when most of these storms come out of the west, kind of crossing the Mississippi River across our region, that west to east motion. That's where we see severe weather occur. So it's always a good thing that our cameras are made for that, and we're going to appreciate that a lot during the upcoming severe weather season. It's just when we want to see some of those storms occurring further out east, it's just hard time to see them, especially since we don't have any cameras out there in Alabama. Let's check Amory just for fun to see if we can get that to work, just to try to get a visual on it. I don't think I have access to this one to move, so I don't think I can do that one. So yeah, we're still, the good news is we're not having to look for anything intense that's occurring out there just outside of Hamilton. On top of you guys in Sunny Home, Rock City, getting closer towards Glen Mary, you guys are going to be dealing with some hefty wind gusts, which I think this was prompted 460 mile per hour wind gusts, potential for some penny-sized hail. So hail, it continues to struggle. It's still on the table, but as far as anything significant, I'm not quite counting on that for the forecast today. In fact, we can still see those light shades of pinks, purples. Again, the smallest portion of the scale, or the lowest part of our scale here with large hail. And again, this is peak impact. So if we were thinking worst case scenario, kind of especially more programmed for severe weather. It would come in, I believe, maybe an inch. Oh, half an inch. So yeah, we're not even reaching the severe criteria for a warning to be issued hail-wise. So this is still very wind-based, dumping heavy amounts of rainfall, but hail, I think, really continues to struggle because, one, this is a hot and summer day. It is just really going to struggle to make it all the way to the surface without melting, at least within that 1 inch in diameter. And also with how heavy the precip or that rainfall is, that also assists in helping it melt on its way down if it was able to kind of build up within the updraft. So that continues to be a positive. But I'm pretty proud. Everybody's not really asking too many questions here in the comments. So it looks like we're explaining everything well. You guys aren't concerned whatsoever, and there's no reason to be. We're still sitting really good here in North Mississippi. Just kind of wanted to kind of come online for those warnings that were issued, or at least that initial one that has since expired, replaced with that flash flood warning. But again, it's a whole here in North Mississippi, just dealing with some rainfall spread out across our region, a little bit heavier downpours out there towards the Delta, north and south of Highway 82, but dealing with some rainfall. But the heavier precip, more energetic storms, that's going to continue to stay further east from Highway 45, pretty much just across the state line entirely, where we're seeing those stronger storms. And I can pull up the chat behind the scenes to see what they're thinking out there with Huntsville. There was more trees down on power lines in Raymond, Garris Road, and Ford City. So that's for Colbert, Alabama. So yeah, wind, that continues to be a big issue with these storms today. But thankfully, we're doing pretty well here in North Mississippi. Looks like Southern Summer Rain. She's in the comments tonight, saying God bless, and thank you all at Mississippi Live for looking out for us. Well, I appreciate you for tuning in. We always want to make sure to keep you guys updated no matter where the weather is happening. That way y'all know kind of what's ongoing and we can walk you through it in real time. So let's go back to that warning again out here just north of Lamar and pretty much in Marion County, starting to exit our viewing area. You can see pretty much right next to the county line, kind of following Highway 278, almost in that northwest direction. And this morning, it will continue until 45 if we don't see this expire earlier, like we just saw with the initial warning that we came online for. That was supposed to expire within the next 6 minutes, around 5 o'clock, and we were way ahead of schedule with that. So with these storms, they kind of build on up and dump everything else out, and it doesn't have too much left in the tank after that. We'll take a look at our lightning strikes. Those, okay, so we're starting at like 186. It worked its way up towards 220, 230, but it's starting to decrease, and we're now down to 205. So that's also a good tool to use when you're kind of looking at how energetic these storms can be. When you see those lightning strikes kind of build on up, it's showing it's a very healthy thunderstorm out there. But once we start to see them decrease, it's losing its fuel, it's losing its energy. We're not quite seeing as many strikes, so it's starting kind of to weaken, start to dissipate, and that continues to be a good sign with those strikes and the kind of count of it starting to decrease as well. Again, looking at our threats to put everybody's mind at ease, we're not talking about anything tornadic one bit. If we were, we would start to see some of that red color start to pop on up. We're dealing with a lot of green and purple, and that is due to heavy rainfall and the potential for some hail. And you can actually see that there is a darker purple shade starting to pop up a little bit, indicating that a worst case scenario, we could talk about 1 inch hail. That has since declined here in the latest scan. So everything continues to trend in the right direction with this storm as it is leaving our viewing area, traveling further and further eastward into Alabama, not affecting us here in Mississippi one bit, but for you guys out there in Marion County, you guys are dealing with some of that last bit. Let's go take a look at our hail track. So that's around Brilliant, where we start to see, let's go back on precip to see kind of what it was dropping. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I think there's a good chance it probably dropped all of its hail already. You can see in between Brilliant and Brookside. Let me make sure I know where it's at here. Let's see here. I don't think oh wait, I think it's over here. 3D radar. Yeah. we were to look at that and kind of tilt this, I mean, some tall vertical development where some of that hail has been. Let me turn off the lightning really quick, just so it doesn't kind of blur in this thunderstorm. So we're dealing with kind of one of those taller clouds out there, that vertical development, that warm air continuing to rise. And when we see that updraft, I mean, it carries all of that up there. And if we could see that hail start to form, what Matt was talking about, well, once the downdraft becomes a little bit more dominant, it drops everything that it had stored up. So the higher it gets, the faster it'll fall, could cause more severe damage where we see those wind gusts kind of reach 58 miles per hour or greater in gusts. And so that's the same thing with the hail. So we could kind of see how that storm looked back then. And if we were to continue to play it out, looks like it's starting to collapse as well. So, and I think that's also when they issued that warning because they saw the hail that it was dropping. So thankfully that continues to not be the story anymore, but I think the hail was a little bit more prominent. And it looks like, did they kind of extend the, no, never mind. That's still the same one. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, that's continuing until the 5:45 time frame later on tonight. And we'll continue to zoom out. We're seeing that severe thunderstorm warning again get issued earlier when we came online, where that it was for Colbert and I think Albuquerque? Lauderdale. There we go. I'm learning my Alabama counties today for Northwest Alabama. But you guys are back into another severe thunderstorm warning. It's not in our viewing area. Again, that would be kind of for the Russellville community, kind of Franklin County. Y'all are clipped out of the region or maybe barely crossing the county line where you can see that warning get issued. But the heavy precip, let me take this off that way we can continue to not cover up the storm up there. Still dealing with some heavy amounts of rainfall, which I'll continue to look behind the scenes, see what it got issued for. I'd expect wind. Yeah, 60 miles per hour. It's talking about less than an inch of hail in diameter. So that continues to be another good thing. So again, to reset here, in case any of you guys are tuning in right now, for us here in North Mississippi, we are continuing to look very good with these showers and storms. We're not dealing with anything quite as intense or severe. It's for you guys further out east across the state line where we're dealing with some of those severe thunderstorm warnings. Not really affecting you guys out there in Franklin County or our viewing area. We're still discussing this one out there in Marion, just east of Hamilton, as these thunderstorms continue to move further and further east, very slow. In fact, the Marion County one was moving at around 10 miles per hour. This one up north of Russellville is moving around 15. So we can put a track on that here as we continue coverage of these warnings. And we're getting closer towards 5 o'clock where that initial warning was supposed to expire. It looks like kind of did it a little bit too early and already kind of regained its strength. So let's go, let me back this up a little bit, kind of get a good direction. Yeah, I was starting to just build back up in the southern portion of that storm. We're going to see it kind of almost follow Highway 157. So let's do a storm track on that, and we'll go 15 miles per hour. And I'll kind of go with that leading edge. We'll go kind of, yeah, go the southeast direction. So this is moving, I put it around 15 miles per hour. So Oak Grove around 503, Concord around 507, Rocky Hill 510, Jerusalem 515, same for North Cortland, Cortland around 517, Loosier around 523, same for Terry Heights and Terrytown, Lakeview 529, Wheeler 531, Flower Hill around 532, Lovettville around 534, and the same for Mount Moriah. So you guys going to start to get some of that heavy rainfall and energetic storm, which reminds me, let me put back on the light so we can continue to monitor that, which I'd be surprised. Let's see, let me move my head out of the way. We'll see how the lightning, yeah, that has since continued to increase. So it shows that the storm is very healthy and mature for where it's at right now, and that's going to continue to build on up. Let's take a look at our threats here as we're kind of going back towards this severe thunderstorm warning. We're dealing with still heavy amounts of rainfall, but we're starting to see some of those darker shades of purple come into frame. I'll keep that pulled up in case we need to pull it back up just a second. But we're dealing with some of those light shades of purple, a little bit darker here, meaning that there's a little bit more confidence on some hail kind of just south of Highway 57, but it's talking about worst case scenario, we could see up to 1 inch in hail. Now that's completely feasible up higher up in the sky, but making its way down to the surface, that's going to be a little bit tricky. So I'm not expecting too much hail to come out of this system right now, but if you guys were to send any reports, make sure to do so through the Mississippi Live Weather app. Do so in a safe manner. Do not go outside looking for this while it's occurring. Wait for it to blow on through. And I know that can be a little bit tricky for a day like today when it just takes forever for these storms to move out of the way. So if you're able to take a picture of it through the window, that works too. But definitely don't go out there while this storm continues to keep producing. Which now, looking south, we're dealing with that warning that has expired out there in Marion County within the last 2 minutes. So no longer dealing with that here in our viewing area, which means technically everything again is outside of our region, but I still kind of want to cover this warning really quick before I need to start getting ready for the 6 o'clock again. We're dealing with some showers, lingering moisture here in North Mississippi. As far as storm-wise, not too much. In fact, let's see if I can frame this up because we're talking about 2008 strikes, which I think is a little bit lower than where we started. But if I were to put that all out of frame and we go all of, I'm gonna have to tilt it a really weird way to where we're just covering North Mississippi. And we're still talking about maybe a little less than 400 strikes. So if that kind of helps put it in perspective as the overall intensity or severity with these storms, most of that continues to be further out east across the state line. We can see Tishomingo County. You guys are probably still hearing quite a few rumbles of thunder as that storm continues to ring pretty loud out there out east, and of course outside of Pickens County, getting closer towards Tuscaloosa. They are getting some of that heavier rainfall and quite a few flashes of lightning, rumbles of thunder. But for us here in North Mississippi, that continues to stay very minimal, very isolated, and that's going to continue to be the story throughout the rest of the evening. And of course, we're going to give you a full in-depth look at what that means coming up here live tonight at 6, and of course later at 9 and 10. But we're going to keep going for the next few minutes to continue covering this warning. But if it keeps going and if it stays out of our region, I might have to wrap it up a little bit later just to get ready for the broadcast. But thankfully don't quite have to do that just quite yet. And with how these warnings have typically gone today, they don't last too awfully long. They hopefully kind of do a one and done situation. So we're still looking at this thunderstorm, severe thunderstorm out there just north of Franklin County and kind of barely clipping it as well. You can kind of see that the line kind of cross into it just a little bit. But that heavier precip continues to stay further up north for you guys. And if we looked at our hail track, let's see if that has started to come back a little bit. We are starting to see that, again, sponsored by True Shield Roofing. We can see that it is possible with these lighter shades of pink. You can always see the scale up here talking about some hail falling. Again, I would not be surprised if we're talking about penny or dime sized hail, but the potential for 1-inch hail or anything severe, that's going to continue to be a little bit difficult for these storms to produce, especially with how warm, toasty we continue to be and how heavy this precip is. So we're still looking at severe thunderstorm warning just north of Franklin County with that heavy rainfall. You can see that here on reflectivity. If we were to change this back to the rain rate going on right now, I mean, take a look at all those bright pinks and purples starting to pop on through, and I'll take the lightning off again so you can kind of see it a little bit better. We can start to get some numbers. So just east of Muscle Shoals, if it'll let me, which we might have, there we go. Oops, might have Matt out there in the background. You need me to do, let me know. I can do that for you. But we're still talking about rainfall rates out there, 6.6 out there just east of Muscle Shoals, getting closer towards Bingham, around 5 inches just northeast of Town Creek. Let's see if we can get kind of that brighter spot, 7.5 inches within an hour. So if it were to sit over you guys for that long, we're talking about that heavy of rainfall. But thankfully, although it's very slow, we're talking about movement at around 15 miles per hour. So that could hopefully help limit the potential for another flash flood threat. We do still see that warning out here kind of outlined in the red. I can move this out of the way for you guys. That is where that flash flood warning has been issued. That will continue all the way until 7:30 as we're waiting for those storms to move on out of the region. But this severe thunderstorm warning, that will continue to kind of continue throughout the next, I'd say, 40, a little less than 40 minutes if it were to reach 5:45. So still dealing with that, but hail continues to not be impressive. And even looking at our peak impacts, we're still dealing with some of those kind of darker purple starting to show on up a little bit. But again, I love emphasizing this every time we go to peak impacts. We're not talking about anything tornadic. If we were talking about the potential or the slightest case for something, we would start to see some red pop up here, indicating that wind shear, that rotation aloft. And of course, dealing with rotation means we're dealing with something tornadic, and that is not the case today. That is not the case this afternoon, this evening, overnight. No reason to worry about that. We are good to go throughout the rest of our evening. We're just talking about these stronger thunderstorms a little bit further east, just outside of our region. So we can again zoom back out here, switch that back to radar, kind of reset here for North Mississippi. You can see some of these reports talking about some of when these severe thunderstorms kind of blew on through with some of these gusts. Of course, that was at the airport earlier in Alcorn County that me and Matt were discussing. That was around just shy of 3 o'clock. Coming in at 58 miles per hour. So that's the exact measurement that you would need to see a severe thunderstorm warning get issued for those gusts. But for us here in North Mississippi, we continue to stay fine. We're not dealing with anything strong, intense, severe at this moment in time. If we were to see any of these storms kind of give a last minute just push with some kind of intensity, it stays further out east, where we're talking about that severe thunderstorm warning leaving and exiting the Florence region, kind of continuing along that highway, which I would have to zoom back to see again. I'm going to have to learn all my Alabama terrain, but some heavier rainfall out there in Tuscaloosa, and we can continue to put those lightning strikes back on. And we're still at around 2008. So staying consistent, 2006 now. But I'd like to see those numbers start to decline. And I would expect these strikes to continue to decline pretty rapidly here in the next few hours, just because the sun is closer to setting. It kind of cuts off that daytime heating. Sun is another kind of fuel source for these storms. They love the heat. Of course, the humidity, the mugginess that we have here in Mississippi. I know we have that in surplus. I know everybody knows that very well if you were to step outside. And so we're not, when the sun begins to set, that kind of cuts off that fuel source as we head into the evening overnight period, and thankfully not quite going to have to deal with it for too much longer here. So we're taking a look at that severe thunderstorm warning. It's around 5:08 here as we continue tracking out this severe thunderstorm warning out there in northern Alabama, out there towards Littleville, northeast Smith, Bear Creek. I don't know if you were moving the mouse right there. I'll let you kind of go back to what you were doing. But yeah, still just some heavy rainfall just outside of our viewing area, dealing with some of those, that severe thunderstorm warning, but not affecting us here in North Mississippi. So I will make sure I don't have a text or call from Matt. Make sure I'm not missing anything in case we did want to kind of wrap this up so I can get ready for the 6 o'clock broadcast, or if he wanted to take a look at it. But thankfully, not really affecting us here in North Mississippi. And it looks like there's still no questions in the comments. So all of you guys seem to be pretty good. Y'all are relaxing for your Sunday evening. That is always a good sight to see as we're enjoying what's left of our Sunday before heading into the evening overnight period. And I know we'll continue to kind of enjoy a much drier end to our Sunday compared to that stormy afternoon kind of midway point that we had. Of course, the peak heating afternoon hours of the day, that's what we talk about a lot throughout our broadcast, where we can see our best chance of that storm development to occur. And we saw that right around 2 to 3 o'clock, and we were kind of going through those storms here in North Mississippi before they exited our region close to the 4 o'clock time frame, and now we're dealing with some of that out there in Alabama. So hopefully that will continue to stay further out east. That is what we're expecting as these storms move further and further east. North Mississippi still continuing to look very good. And I just, before wrapping up, I just kind of wanted to keep staying on, just because it is keeping that southeast direction. So I didn't know if it was going to try to push a little bit closer towards Russellville, which is still within our region. So I want to keep my eyes on that. Birmingham seems to have a significant amount of reports issued there with some of the severe storms that moved on through. But if I were to back this up, and I'll kind of frame this up for you guys to see, it looks like it's kind of kicking out that gust front, which allows for some more heavy downpours to begin or a little bit ahead of it, you can kind of see that thin gray or kind of green line make its way closer towards Churntown, and you see how those start to just bubble on up ahead of it, kind of allowing that warmer air to rise. So we're going to see some more development out there in Franklin County, but as far as the severe weather-wise, it should continue kind of the southeasterly direction, kind of moving on out. I am curious with development occurring further on south if it's going to try to latch onto that, but I'm expecting it to kind of keep heading towards Concord, Highway 24, getting closer towards Moulton, and that portions of Alabama, and pretty much the northwestern portion of Alabama, but not affecting us here in our coverage area, and those strikes around 1,300 right now if I kept it in this frame. And yeah, it continues to decrease. So we're hopefully starting to already see another downtrend with these storms further out east. I know a lot was happening out there in the Birmingham community. We can actually see another flash flood warning that was issued, and that will expire around 7 o'clock. And we can see quite a few storm reports as well. This was several trees down in neighborhoods around and in the vicinity of Vestavia Hills Country Club, and that was around 3:30. There was a 52-mile-per-hour wind gust out there within the Birmingham region. It looks like they even have some flooding concerns. So Valley Creek at Center Street has crossed into flood stage. Water overflows on south side bank of creek and approaches the road south of the bridge. So that's probably what prompted that flash flood warning to get issued. And we're still dealing with another one up here closer towards the Florence region. That will expire around 7:30 later on tonight. And of course, I will do a lot better once these storms move on out. And so that's what we continue to keep our eyes on as it's approaching Town Creek, Littleville, Russellville, Moulton, which we can give a storm track on it. And I'll even start on the southern edge, especially as it's starting to kind of latch on to that boundary. And let me frame this up for you guys a little bit better and clear that. Definitely not, it's not what we're tracking. There we go. Okay, let's frame that up and then we'll start here. Oops, I gotta click it again. All right, take a look at Russellville and kind of where that's continuing to move. And I'd say it's still more in that southeast direction. 15 miles per hour might be pushing it just a little bit. So we'll keep it right there. So we're talking about Mountain Home at around 518, Concord 519, same for Longtown, Glasgow Corner around 522, same for Rockwood, Harmony 531, Needmore 531, Mount Hope 533, Oak Grove 535, Pittsburgh and Moulton 537, Laundersville and Muck City around 541, Caddo around 544, Hickory Grove 545, and Fairfield around 548. And continue to look at that latest scan. I mean, it might even go a little bit more easterly than that southern direction, but it's kind of latching on to some of those showers and storms, kind of with that gust front starting to protrude off of it. So would not be surprised to see kind of some more development along Highway 24 and continue to push a little bit further and further southeast. So we're still dealing with that. And we can go take a look at our rain rates again, see how those have fared, and whether or not they're kind of picking up or kind of holding steady here. We're still talking about quite a bit. I mean, up to 6 inches, 7 inches in area, especially along Highway 157. Let's go between Loosier and Concord. That's around 5 inches. The Harmony area, 8.5 inches of rain. So this is just heavy precip type of storms, and that again helps us. It's a kind of a upside and downside at the same time. It helps us in the case that we're not having to worry about hail quite as much, because that amount of moisture, raindrops, it helps melt the stones if they're on their way down to the surface. But then on the downside, we have to deal with that flash flooding concern and slow moving storms with this high of rain rates. They can definitely cause those to get issued, hence why we're seeing this up here in Colbert, Alabama, and down there in the Birmingham region as well. So it's kind of a give and take with some of these forecasts, but I know hail, that continues to bother a few people, so glad to know that we're not having to deal with that quite as frequently here with this storm out there in northwest Alabama, but having to deal with those heavy rain rates. And again, shear, we're not talking about that either. Hail track, let's see how that has fared, and we'll zoom in just a little bit more so I can kind of see if there's any of those darker purple showing on up. We're not really seeing too much. I think our best bet of maybe seeing some hail fall was probably closer towards the Melrose community, just north of Bear Creek and just southwest of Bellevue Heights. So this was probably the area that probably had the best chance to see some rain, or excuse me, hail fall down to the surface. But we're still seeing some of that kind of hail swath up here in that southeasterly direction as the severe thunderstorm continues moving on through. So we're going to continue to look at this. We'll go and look at the latest update with this severe thunderstorm warning and whether or not they kind of clip Franklin County out. It looks like there is kind of a special weather statement, but I think that was probably issued before the warning. So still a impactful thunderstorm as it's bringing some heavy rainfall and some gusty winds. I mean, you could take a look at that as it continues to move on through, but I will say it's kind of getting close towards that outline here that you can see with this box, and we haven't seen an extension yet, so I'm hoping to get some word from the National Weather Service out there on whether or not they're going to continue this warning. I'm not seeing anything just quite yet, so hopefully we'll see that expire. They're probably going to keep it on as long as they can while it's still within its warning area, because I mean these are very slow moving storms, so it's not like they're racing out of them at a fast rate. But I am glad to see that we have not seen a secondary warning get issued quite yet. But for you guys out there in Russellville, you guys are starting to get some of that heavier rainfall, and again, I don't think we have any cameras that can face east. We could take a look at our Iuka one. I know that one gave us some bolts with the storms earlier, and we might be able to look a little bit more southeast here. So bear with me behind the scenes as I kind of move this again, try to give y'all another updated look. It's already looking kind of in the southeast direction where we left it. So this is still probably our best bet to see some of those showers. But again, still pretty far away. And we'll move it a little bit more to the right, not bother the tower that it's on. So still dealing with just some of those showers out there in the distance, but we're not quite talking about those flashes of lightning, or at least bolts that we could have seen a little bit more prominent earlier. We saw one pop on up, but they're not quite as frequent. But again, we're looking very far away. The camera's probably not able to pick up on it quite as well. And we're going to definitely be looking through a wall of rain. So we're really behind the storm. Can't quite get a good visual on that. So that continues to be a positive, at least, that we're not dealing with anything too major extreme, at least here in North Mississippi. But try to see if I could get a good visual on that. And honestly, you can still see behind me, at least here in the green, still see some of those raindrops falling. So we're still dealing with some lingering moisture, some sprinkles, but the overall intensity, that blinding rain, that continues to not bother us quite as much as what it was earlier. So we're still looking at that severe thunderstorm warning, and you can definitely tell that it's starting to kind of shift a little bit further south, closer towards Russellville, and kind of try to latch onto that boundary, but it's still outpacing it a little bit. At least I know this is a little bit closer, so it'll start to merge more within Franklin County. But I think the overall severe component, that continues to stay further up here, kind of more in that northeast direction. So I'm not expecting, of course, the whole storm to shift, but I do expect kind of more activity to pop on up a little bit south of the storm with some heavier showers. But thankfully, we're not seeing any warnings get issued quite yet with that. So not seeing it kind of maintain its strength into the next few minutes. So we're now at around 5:20. This warning will expire in another 25 minutes here as we continue tracking the severe thunderstorm warning in northwest Alabama, just north of Franklin County and the Russellville communities, affecting you guys out there in Town Creek. We can give you another track on this as it continues to make its way further and further southeast. I still kind of want to see, we might have to do two separate ones. Yeah, because that keeps going southeast. So let's do this first one with kind of, I would say, a little bit more severe or intensity with that. This continues to go kind of in that southeast direction, and we'll go around 15 miles per hour. Let's, oh, I can't, wait, I click that. There we go. And let me zoom this out. That way you guys can kind of see. Okay, so we're talking about Concord around 525. Same for Lakeview. Midway 528. 528 again for Flower Hill and Moulton. Fairfield 533. Kitchens Mill 536. Muck City 541. Caddo around 543. Oakville 545. Pumpkin Center 547. Trinity 552. Neal around 555. Speak around 558. And Danville around 559. And that's kind of following where I would say the most severe component of that storm is. But another track that I wanted to do is actually for you guys out here in the Russellville community, kind of trying to latch onto that gust front. And this is going a little bit more southern compared to the rest of that storm. It's just trying to kind of start up here and kind of follow that. So we'll still go 15, and that might still be overdoing it a little bit. And I'll shift it a little bit more south. So that's around Churntown at 536, Oak Grove 536 as well, Needmore 538, Mount Hope 539, Union 546, Carroll Crossroads 550, same for Hickory Grove, Orange 554, and Posey Mill 604, Marintown 616, and Pebble around 618. And I'm seeing some more special weather statements are getting issued. That's for Coleman, Alabama. But I'm not seeing anything about that warning just quite yet, or at least not seeing it get extended or taken off just quite yet. So I know Coleman, you guys are starting to see some of those heavier showers and storms right now further out east from our viewing area. So you guys dealing with some strong storms as well. But that severe thunderstorm warning still ongoing for you guys out there in Town Creek, getting closer towards Moulton. And I believe this is Highway 24. So that'll start to cross within the next few minutes. Honestly, probably closer towards the next 10 minutes, just with how slow these storms continue to move. But we have not seen the warning get taken off yet. We have not seen it get extended, at least covering more of an area as it kind of encroaches closer and closer outside of that box that you can see. So that continues to be a positive. I don't think they're really chomping at the bit to try to push it as quick as they can. I think with how slow moving they are, we can kind of continue watching these to see how they behave and whether or not it's still maintaining that strength. But I will say it's a good thing that we're not seeing another warning get issued just quite yet. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. Still checking the comments. You guys seem to be doing fine. I'm not seeing any questions on my end, but I can make sure to refresh just in case. But actually, I think we're good. Yeah. So all of y'all seem to be doing very well here in North Mississippi and within our viewing area. So with that, let me kind of reset here again for all of our region. I'll kind of zoom out again. For our viewing area, we're not really dealing with many showers or storms quite as much as what we were earlier this afternoon and into the evening hours. We are kind of returning back to just some lingering moisture, a little bit heavier downpours out there towards Chula, just north of Yazoo City, kind of dealing with just some downpours and maybe run-of-the-mill thunderstorm or two, hearing a few rumbles of thunder. But the intense or severe, stronger showers and storms, that's going to continue to stay further out east, pretty much across the state line into Alabama and pretty much outside of our Alabama counties as well. So we're really not dealing with that for too much longer. And I'll probably keep going until the 5:30 mark, just because I do really need to get ready for the 6 o'clock broadcast to make sure I can have everything ready and updated to give you guys what you need to know as we get ready for the work week. But I'd feel comfortable doing that since it's not really within our viewing area. And there's not too many of you guys on here right now, and I'm not seeing any questions. So I think we're in a good spot, but I'll keep going for the next 5 minutes. And of course, that way Matt can send me a message just in case he needs anything, but I can start working on that for you guys to get ready. So yeah, let's go back to that severe thunderstorm warning. I'm not saying anything behind the scenes yet on any activity on whether or not they're going to continue it, but we're still dealing with that warning affecting you guys out there in Town Creek, Leisure, Concord, Littleville, Russellville. You guys are dealing with some of those heavier showers, not quite in that severe thunderstorm warning, but dealing with a storm nonetheless. We can turn back the lightning count again. Yeah, okay, so we're at 798. I know I'm always covering it up with my head, so sorry. I really want to see, I might have to see if we can move it under our Mama Justice logo, because we're always standing on the left side of the screen. So we might have to switch that for you guys. But if I were to back this up, yeah, lightning continues to increase. Yeah, it's not slowing down, so it's about to cross 800. I wouldn't be surprised if it does do that, unless it just gets right on the cusp, and then we can start that downward trend. Yep, 801. So there we go. Right on the money. We're still talking about those lightning strikes continuing to pick on up with these storms, so still maintaining some intensity, some fuel into the evening hours ahead. So we're still dealing with that severe thunderstorm warning for you guys out there in Colbert, Alabama, and Lawrence. So dealing with that severe thunderstorm warning. It will expire at 5:45, and that's within the next 20, well, pretty much 19 minutes. So getting closer and closer towards that. I'm honestly not surprised that they haven't pulled it off yet, because this is the one they did earlier, and we saw it kind of maintain its strength. So kind of being a little bit hesitant with this one, trying to play it a little bit safe with these storms that continue to move on through. Several special weather statements kind of further out east and for you guys just south of it, so letting you guys know, and that's around 50 miles per hour, and that will expire in the next 32 minutes. So hopefully we are starting to see a downtrend in that. And let's go back. Yeah, I can't use the cameras, so we can take a look at our threats again, see how that has changed with the purple and pink starting to pop on up. And it still looks very impressive. Let's just see how it's trended. I mean, yeah, we're talking about kind of those darker shades, kind of just south of Highway 157, and as it continues in that southeast direction, we're honestly talking about a less area covered in that pink, and we're not quite talking about those darker returns either. So confidence, it's not quite there as far as meeting anything severe, but it's still on the table. In fact, I mean, if we were to kind of continue to give you guys values for that, that light pink means maybe a worst case situation. We could expect ½ inch of hail making its way down towards the surface. And of course, we're still dealing with just heavy rain and a lot higher than just less than 1 inch of an hour. So we're still dealing with that. I think our primary concern with the severe thunderstorm warning is the concern for flash flooding. I would put that above the risk of hail, but also some severe thunderstorm, kind of like those wind gusts with that ice storm, knocking down some dead trees and limbs. I know that was kind of more for us here in North Mississippi, but I mean, we still dealt with ice and kind of just those cooler temperatures and kind of freezing those limbs even outside of the region for Northwest Alabama. So you guys could deal with some of those dead limbs. That makes it just that much easier for some of these gusts to provide or prove impactful for some of those storms to kind of cause some of those issues. So definitely keeping our eyes on that. But let's reset here again. I want to zoom back out to make sure everything else is behaving pretty well. If we were to see anything misbehave, it continues to stay further out east. So again, North Mississippi, we're staying good. For all of our Mississippi viewers, y'all are good to continue enjoying on Sunday evening. No reason to kind of stay on or worry about any severe weather. Of course, I love interacting with you guys and having you on the live streams, but y'all go out, continue to enjoy the next few hours of y'all Sunday. And of course, tune into our broadcast coming up here within the next 30 minutes or so. So I'm going to probably wrap this up here as I get ready for the 6 o'clock broadcast. That way I can give you all a great forecast heading into the work week of what all we have to expect, because, hey, we're probably feeling pretty nice here right now, especially with these showers, but mugginess, that is going to return very quickly. So y'all make sure to continue to enjoy y'all Sunday evening. We might still be talking about that severe thunderstorm warning in Northwest Alabama, thankfully not affecting us here within our viewing area, but still those stronger storms continue to stay a little bit further east across the state line, but not affecting us here in North Mississippi. So with that, I'm going to get off, continue to get ready for the 6 o'clock broadcast coming up in the next 30 minutes. If you haven't done so already, download the Mississippi Live Weather app. That way you can send us pictures or reports of what these storms are doing for your town and what they've kind of, how they've impacted you guys, so we know what is ongoing. And of course, just letting us know what you're up to and kind of enjoying some time outdoors. I love broadcasting any pictures you guys send in, so I'll make sure to do so during the 6 o'clock broadcast coming up, which brings me to my next point. We'll be live tonight at 6, 9, and 10 to give you the very latest. And with that, we'll make sure to give you